Hey guys, Nikolai here. In traditional sports, athletes have a regulated set of rules that they must follow. Breaking such rules can often result in a monetary fine or even the suspension of a player for an X amount of time depending on what they did. And believe it or not, those same standards are in esports today. But before we get into 5 professional gamers who were banned for strange reasons, I gotta let you know that this video is sponsored by ProGuides. ProGuides.com is the one-stop shop to getting better at League of Legends. They offer up-to-date tier list, champion guides, and coaching from high elo players among much more. You can log on to ProGuides today, select a coach, and start playing with a pro in no time. Click the first link in the description to get started. Now with that being said, let's jump into the video. Jumping right into the action with number 5 and 4, we take a look at players who were punished specifically for what Riot calls using racially derogatory language. In 2017, Riot Games hosted one of their yearly international tournaments, the Mid-Season International, in Brazil. This would of course be an honor for Brazilian players to play in, but just one day before the start of the tournament, a player named Yoda from the Brazilian team Red Canids would go on to get banned for using Twitter. This is what he tweeted. "I just ran by the Japs hotel room while screaming Ching Chong." His tweets were picked up by news outlets, and just hours before the first day of MSI could even begin, Riot was quick to slam Yoda with a 3-game suspension and a $2,000 fine. But in the same boat, we crash into our next story. This actually doesn't feature a pro gamer, but instead it features the casters of a pro gaming event getting in trouble. In 2016, Riot Games brought their yearly All-Stars event to Barcelona, and the event itself was business as usual. However, at one point, the Spanish casters were commentating over the end of a match, and while watching a player's camera, that player being 3-time undefeated world's champion Bengi, they started trying to read his lips to see what he was saying. And this is how it went.
No, ¿qué hice? Sí, no, o sea,
bueno, yo creo que esa es la cara de...
Ahí es que poner,
tilteado,
ese
la
fue el
jodí.
momento en el que se dio cuenta que...
Aquí la jodí, parece, dijo.
Probablemente su cabeza debe haber estado pensando algo como ching chang chong chong ten yang ten.
Ching chang kong. Chingután, ningután, ningután. Bueno, de todas formas, un enfrentamiento que termina...
Now, sometime after this broadcast ended, this clip started getting shared around, and these dudes were getting some pretty bad attention. Of course, this clip also ended up on Riot's radar, and they weren't happy. This was part of Riot's statement. "We're extremely disappointed in the behavior of those 2 casters, and have removed them from the remainder of the broadcast." And just for clarification, the statement says remainder of the broadcast, but All-Stars goes on for more than a couple days. So because of that very poor joke, they ended up being completely removed from the event. Moving forward with number 3, a player in China was suspended for refusing to cooperate with a referee. This is kind of a bizarre situation that you don't ever really see, so I wanted to showcase it in this video. In League of Legends esports, a referee stands behind each team. These referees are essentially there to make sure everything on stage is running smoothly, and that all the players are following the rules. If a player has anything wrong with his keyboard or something in the game, they communicate that to their referee. Among other things, like maybe you gotta go to the bathroom.
There it is, bathroom break, baby. I mean, when you gotta go, right?
So anyway, that's a League of Legends referee. Pretty simple stuff. But on March 14th, 2017, a player named Icon who played with Team OMG in the LPL had a temper tantrum on a referee. From the report the LPL put out, it would seem that Icon was being a little crybaby while on the losing side of a best of 3, and he was taking out his frustration on the referee. The report states that while the referee was preparing a game, Icon threw his headset on the table and stood up to challenge the referee. Then after being told to sit down, he ignored the referee and refused to communicate with him for the duration of the match. This sounds like when you get mad at your parents for not buying you those cookies. For this behavior, he was banned from his upcoming match and was given a warning for his behavior. Continuing with number 2, we take a look at a player who was temporarily banned for committing what Riot calls an obscene gesture. On June 9th, 2014, Team Keydstars and Pain Gaming were playing the finals of the Brazilian League of Legends Championship Series. Emotions were high and both teams were ready to win it all. However, a player named Mylon on Team Keydstars was more excited than everyone else, as in the middle of Game 2, after Milan finds himself in a 1v1 versus a Yasuo, he ends up successfully killing the Yasuo and goes on to perform what Riot describes as an obscene gesture into the camera.
Mas já ter chegado do Lact, ele quase levou a torre, pode ter o X1 entre os dois, o Lact é atordoado, vai levando muito dano, e meu Deus do céu, Tixia desapareceu, Yasuo!
This gesture and this little moment as a whole became a little controversial to some Brazilian fans, as Milan and Team Keed would go on to win the finals, and Milan wouldn't really get a punishment for his behavior, only what was documented as a formal warning. But the reason I'm talking about it in this video is because I guess Riot Games is serious about their warnings. Literally 2 years after the incident, Milan was suspended for 2 weeks and fined $500 for his behavior in this clip.
KaBuM e bem prontinhos, preparados para o jogo que vem aqui na sequência depois de G3X e Operation Kino. Tá lá a equipe da BEM já aparecendo para a câmera, o pessoal da KaBuM também ali, o Minervinha sentado, esperando a hora do jogo começar.
Okay, so for those who didn't see anything, here it is. On the far right side of the screen, you can see a hand pop out and do a middle finger. That hand belongs to Milan, who was warned 2 years ago from doing that while competing. I know, this is kind of ridiculous, but it isn't the first time that Riot Games goes hard on players using the middle finger. A while back we talked about the time Hai made a quick middle finger in the background of an interview and was fined 500 euros. Now for number 1, we go back in time to 2013 when all 5 members of a team were banned from competing for the remainder of the season due to what was labeled as showing negative attitudes and throwing behavior. On November 26, 2013, a regular best out of 3 match in the LCK was being played between Samsung Ozon and Team Dark. The first game was a normal game of League of Legends, kind of. The game started with a 5v5 team fight in a bush. Team Samsung came out on top with 5 kills and only 2 of their allies dying. This left Team Dark pretty tilted, and it was difficult for them to come back throughout the game. So after getting slapped up for the rest of the game, the moment the timer hit 20 minutes, Team Dark immediately surrendered. Which, as we talked about before, surrendering in a professional match is not against the rules on paper, but players are urged not to do it. Now we move on to game number 2, where everything goes horrible for Team Dark. They began their trolling in Champion Select.
This is a troll game, guys. I've got a feeling. They just basically banned like 1, 2, 3 across the top of the ban thing.
Where instead of picking laners, they picked only jungle champions. 3 out of 5 of the players even took Smite. So something was definitely up, and their opponents picked up on this. So they started picking champions that would be effective on pushing out the game quickly. Very quickly. As in, so quick that this would go on to be the fastest game of professional League of Legends ever. Team Dark was defeated in 8 minutes and 24 seconds.
Double kill for Dandy. Trundle dies to something somewhere. And there goes the Nexus, guys. 8 minutes, the Nexus down to about half health. Can Team Cloud Templar come back? I think it's just too little too late.
Who's MVP this game, though?
I think the fans are. I think Cloud Templar is MVP this game. They're going to give it to him.
This is
Cloud Templar for MVP, guys.
the fastest game of League of Legends.
In history, easily. I'm just going to make that claim. I don't even care. There it is, GG at 8 minutes, 24 seconds. Samsung Ozone takes down Team Dark.
And I'ma be real with you, they clearly thought it was funny in Champion Select. You can see them all laughing and giggling while they pick their champions. But after losing 21-4 in 8 minutes, no one was laughing. I would assume that despite them intentionally trolling, they didn't actually expect to lose that quickly. And for those wondering, the reason for such a heavy punishment is simply that Riot and all the professional League of Legends leagues enforce all players to be competitive. Also, you're definitely not allowed to intentionally throw a game, especially not in 8 minutes. After the game ended, the team and the players received their suspensions, and they were never seen in professional gaming ever again.
Team Dark, they're just checking Twitter now. They're like, I wonder what the internets are saying about our game.